Now, I will tell you that Infinity War, easily in the top three theatrical experiences of my life. I was there opening night, but that was back when they were still doing like pre-opening day opening night. So it was like a Thursday, and it was probably a 10 or 11 p.m. showing in the mall, and there was like 20 of us that went all together because I was still in high school at the time. So the thing about Infinity War, there's like 30 plus key characters, and they're all so well balanced within the narrative, and they all behave consistently with their previously established qualities. And that's really easy to not achieve. That's really easy to fail at doing when you have that many characters to juggle. The movie is about the arrogance that comes with repeated victory. And this is really why I want to talk about the movie, is because I don't feel anybody really acknowledges this. I was very online around this time, talked about movies a lot online, and I didn't see anybody else really cover this aspect of the film. So all the previous chapters in the Infinity Saga, we see the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy win multiple conflicts with very few losses, you know. Yeah, somebody like Yondu would die occasionally, but for the most part, very few losses. And so at the opening of Infinity War, they're all arrogant because they've all won multiple victories and they think they're invincible. And I think that this is why we see things like Loki trying to pull one over on Thanos with the equivalent of a butter knife. You know? It's because he thinks he can get away with it. And I remember how people just overanalyzed that scene to death. All the Loki fangirls were like, oh, he's casting a mirage and he's going to reappear in Endgame and he'll have been alive the whole time. No. Loki was just that stupid at the end. But he's not the only one. Wanda and Vision behave kind of stupidly. They let themselves get taken off guard because they're off on a romantic getaway. Peter Quill takes half of the Guardians to nowhere to kill Thanos instead of staying with Thor and increasing their chances because, you know, safety in numbers. Tony Stark kind of does the same thing. Doctor Strange warns him not to go to Titan. And he does. And it's such a small team that they take to Titan. It's 3 superheroes because they don't know they're going to meet the Guardians there. So it's just foolish. The Wakandan army faces the Outriders in an open field for the hell of it, instead of retaining their numbers by holding up in the city a la Helm's Deep until the Mind Stone can be destroyed. These are all things that I remember people nitpicking to death when Infinity War had just come out. And they would try to come up with these elaborate reasons in universe that the characters would make these decisions. And nobody ever thought to say, it's just because they're arrogant. I was the only one. I'll take that much credit. I was the only one I remember analyzing the movie that way. But the thing about these choices that the characters make is each of these choices results in a loss of life and or time, and they can be traced to the hero's pride, to their unspoken certainty that they can make the odds work in their favor if they just hope and quip hard enough, and it doesn't work. And so this is kind of the closest that the MCU ever got to deconstructing itself, because the quirky attitude, as Tony Stark calls it, that all the superheroes have in all of their previous movies. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't like that as an audience member. It varies. But it's there. And there had been enough entries into the universe at this point that everybody kind of understood the general arc of an MCU movie. We all knew how it was going to go. And so this is really the only time they've ever turned that upside down. I also want to shout out Alan Silvestri's score. Does a ton of heavy lifting. It's dark, foreboding, dramatic, hardly stops to take a breath. It's almost like a Greek chorus, I would say. It just urges the narrative along. It's so fast-paced. It's difficult to say how rushed the production of this movie might have felt. Not to mention the pressure on everybody involved, because you're shooting a two-part finale back-to-back. I think there's no doubt that it would have been worth the extra time and money to make this movie look a little more like the first Avengers movie or the first Guardians of the Galaxy, back when Disney/Marvel still allowed for a few practical effects, a few real backgrounds, and costumes instead of mocap suits. That feeling of witnessing a tangible world's apocalypse, as opposed to something happening in this more glazed, Matrix-like universe. That's really all that's missing from this movie. Other than that, it's a sucker punch. And it's one of the MCU's very best, and the way the MCU is these days, it always will be. Because it just proved the whole endeavor had built to something worthwhile. I remember thinking, even if Endgame is not good, we at least got Infinity War. That at least makes it all worth it. And that's still true.